Behind Adolf Hitler's rise and fall lies a shadowy figure, Dr. Theodor Morell, the man who gained Hitler's trust and turned him into a drug-dependent leader. As Hitler's personal physician, Morell prescribed a dangerous mix of drugs, including methamphetamines and opioids, slowly turning the dictator into an addict and paranoia. But who was Dr. Morell, and how did he wield such influence over one of history's most feared men? Join us as we uncover the dark partnership between Hitler and his notorious doctor, and how it contributed to the downfall of the Nazi regime. The early life of Theodor Morell. Theodor Gilbert Morell was born on July 22, 1886, in the town of Treis-Münzenberg, in the state of Hesse, in the central region of Germany. His father was a primary school teacher, and his mother came from a wealthy farming family. As the second child in the family, Morell had an older brother named Adolf and a younger sister named Emily. From a young age, he suffered from chronic stomach pain, a condition that would later also affect Adolf Hitler in the 1930s, and this is what led to the fateful relationship between Morell and the Third Empire leader. Morell was an outstanding student, demonstrating exceptional academic abilities since high school. He even received exemption from oral exams due to the excellent quality of his written work. After graduating, Morell pursued teaching and taught near Frankfurt am Main, followed by a year in Rüsselsheim near Mainz. At the same time, he studied medicine at Heidelberg University, where he consistently achieved the highest grades in his class. After Heidelberg, Morell went to France to continue his medical studies in Grenoble and Paris. He then returned to Germany and specialized in obstetrics and gynecology in Munich. Finally, in May 1913, Morell obtained his doctorate and officially became a physician after completing his thesis on obstetrics. At this time, Morell had established a considerable reputation in the field of medicine, with many scholars highly evaluating his work. His first job as a licensed physician was on a ship, working for several companies. This experience helped him become proficient in treating diseases related to tropical climates. But when World War I broke out in 1914, Morell volunteered for the front lines, serving as a battalion physician and later as a physician in a prisoner of war camp. With his extensive experience, Morell opened a private practice in Berlin in 1919. A year later, he married Johanna Honi Müller, a wealthy actress who introduced him to the German upper class in the entertainment industry. Thanks to his wife's connections, Morell quickly became a renowned physician in the Berlin upper class. His wealth increased significantly, and he spared no expense for his clinic, reflecting the luxurious taste and status of the clientele he served. Morell's treatment methods were quite unique and experimental, taking advantage of Germany's position as a leading country in pharmaceutical production. He had access to many newly emerging drugs at that time, although later on some of these drugs were proven to be harmful. This reflects the reality of the entire German pharmaceutical industry at that time, where many drugs that were later considered extremely dangerous and addictive were widely used. Morell's reputation continued to grow. He was even invited to be a personal physician for the kings of Persia and Romania. However, Morell declined both attractive offers because he was satisfied with his current life in Berlin, where he had countless opportunities to develop his medical and business career. Morell meets Hitler. In 1933, when the Nazis came to power, Morell's career was hampered by the large number of Jewish patients. He became a target. Morell later attributed this to his Jewish features. To cope with this unfavorable situation, Morell joined the Nazi Party. However, even after joining the party, he continued to treat Jewish patients. It was not until the Kristallnacht events of 1938 that the atrocity made it clear that even the slightest contact with Jews could have dire consequences. In the mid-1930s, Heinrich Hoffmann, Hitler's personal photographer, sought treatment from Theodor Morell for gonorrhea. Impressed by the results of the treatment, Hoffmann became a close friend of Morell. During a visit to the Hoffmann family by Johanna, Morell was introduced to Eva Braun, Hitler's girlfriend, who would later become a patient of Morell's. On Christmas Day, 1936, the Morell family was invited by Heinrich Hoffmann to spend the holidays at the Obersalzberg resort. There, Hoffmann suggested that they visit Hitler at the nearby Berghof. Hoffmann had previously mentioned Morell to Hitler, and the Führer was quite interested because he was suffering from some health problems that he believed could be cured by Morell's unique treatment. When they arrived at the Berghof, Hitler took Morell aside for a talk, and the two went for a walk together. The content of the conversation remains a mystery, but from then on, Morell officially became Hitler's personal physician. Morell's wife, Johanna, was worried. She questioned her husband's decision and wondered if it was really wise when they were living a good life in Berlin. But the lure of fame and power was too great for Morell to resist. Perhaps that was why he decided to see the Führer the next day. The main health problem Hitler wanted Morell to address was his chronic stomachache, accompanied by uncomfortable bloating. In addition, the Führer also suffered from a rash on his legs, which made him extremely worried. Morell began treating Hitler with Mutaflor capsules, a drug containing E. coli bacteria that is safe and is still used today. Within a few months, Hitler's health improved significantly. He no longer had stomach aches and could eat normally again. Morell continued Hitler's healthcare regimen by giving him daily injections. However, this treatment method has many potential risks. Soon after, Morell began taking Vitabiotin, a drug he had developed himself, containing the methamphetamine Pervitin, a popular drug at the time and widely used in the German military. Morell's appointment as Hitler's personal physician was controversial. Heinrich Himmler and Hermann Göring, powerful figures in the Nazi regime, considered Morell a quack. On the other hand, Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi propaganda minister, trusted him and became one of Morell's patients. Göring even sarcastically called Morell the Reichsspritzmeister, master of injections of the Reich. As the war escalated, Hitler's need for the drug increased, and his body gradually developed a resistance to the methamphetamine, forcing Morell to increase his dosage and seek alternative treatments. Hitler also began to suffer from serious drug addictions, which took a heavy toll on him both physically and mentally. For Morell, his main motivations seemed to be money and power. He used his position and influence for personal gain, supplying the German army with a variety of drugs, including multivitamins and even antiseptic powders. Decline and fall of an empire. As the Allied forces tightened their grip on Germany, Hitler's health began to deteriorate severely. However, it was not only the physical pain that the Führer had to endure, but also the destructive lifestyle of Theodor Morell. Morell became obese, a condition that led to serious cardiovascular problems. Many people around him recognized the harmful effects of Morell's treatments and tried to warn Hitler. Karl Brandt, another doctor of Hitler, spoke out about the dangers of Morell's treatments, but Hitler disregarded this advice and even stripped Brandt of his military position. Even Eva Braun, who had been a patient of Morell, changed her opinion of him, considering Morell to be vulgar and contemptible. Morell's treatment methods became increasingly careless and dangerous, not only causing Hitler to become addicted to methamphetamine, but also inadvertently causing the Führer to develop jaundice. Morell prescribed Dr. Koster's anti-gas pills for Hitler, a medication that was later found to contain strychnine and belladonna. It was the strychnine that caused Hitler's jaundice. Not stopping there, Morell also gave Hitler Eucadal, the original trade name for oxycodone, a highly addictive opioid. Traudl Junge, Hitler's secretary, who began working for the Führer in January 1945, recorded in her memoirs that although Morell could not cure Hitler's illness, he never lost the Führer's affection. Junge wrote that when Hitler mentioned Morell, a hint of sympathy appeared in his eyes. Hitler once said of Morell, "Perhaps if it weren't for Morell, I would have died long ago, or at least would not have been able to continue my work." He is the only person who can help me in both the past and the present. On April 22, 1945, just 1 week before Hitler's suicide, he erupted in a fit of rage and dismissed Morell. Morell pleaded with Hitler to reconsider, but Hitler threatened to execute him if he stayed. Morell was forced to fly back to Munich. On May 1st, Morell suffered a heart attack and had to be hospitalized. 2 days later, the American army captured the hospital where Morell was being treated. A few days later, Germany surrendered to the Allied forces, marking the end of World War II in Europe. The end of Dr. Morell. When the wife visited Morell in the hospital, she only saw a man collapsed, immersed in tears. Morell's condition worsened in the following weeks. In July, Morell was officially captured by the U.S. military. He was detained together with Karl Brandt for a short time before being transferred elsewhere. Due to poor health, Morell was moved to the prison hospital at the former Dachau concentration camp. This health condition was also the reason why his trial was postponed until June 1947. At this trial, Morell was acquitted and released. He left the train station in Munich with nothing but a few sets of clothes. A few days later, Morell was received by the Red Cross and taken to a nursing home. Here, he lived his final days. Morell passed away 11 months later in a state of solitude and murmuring to himself. Dr. Theodor Morell epitomizes a paradox, a satirical portrait of a person bearing the distinctive traits of fanaticism, madness, and the blind self-confidence of the Nazi regime. These very characteristics endeared him to Adolf Hitler, and they also led to Morell's downfall, similar to the fate of many others around Hitler.